Welcome to Aquarian Diary, where we discuss issues around the emerging age of Aquarius. I'm your host, John Irving. Thank you for joining me. Greetings all, it is March 15th, 2022. Right now I want to talk about something that came to my attention a couple months ago. I believe it was when I was working on the Pluto in Aquarius episode, and I noticed a peculiar transit that's coming up the very end of July and the very beginning of August of this year, 2022, which I haven't heard anyone talk about. The North Node is now transiting Taurus, and the South Node is transiting Scorpio as of January of 2022. The North Node had been transiting Gemini, and the South Node had been transiting Sagittarius because they are two opposite polar points. They are 180 degrees apart. And the nodes are actually just mathematical calculations. So they are points in space where the moon orbiting the Earth and where that orbit intersects the ecliptic, or the plane on which most of the planets orbit the sun. It's kind of like a disk, how the planets orbit our sun. And the Earth is on a slight angle, so you can picture the moon orbiting around the Earth, and where it intersects that ecliptic plane is how the nodes are calculated. The lunar nodes make a complete orbit once every 18.6 years, and they are always in a retrograde motion relative to the typical motion of most other planets. The lunar nodes will change signs about every 18.6 months. So as of January of 2022, the North Node moved into Taurus. Nonetheless, I just happened to notice this conjunction at the very end of July and the 1st of August of 2022, where transiting Uranus will conjunct or join the North Node, and at the same time, Mars will also conjunct the North Node. So we will have a triple conjunction of the North Node, Uranus, and Mars. And of course, because the North Node and the South Node are polar opposites, Uranus and Mars will be opposing the South Node by definition. So what does this mean? Okay, so the nodes are transiting Taurus and Scorpio, and Taurus, where this triple conjunction is occurring with the North Node. In general astrology, Taurus rules the second house. The second house governs things around property, possessions, money, resources, and things that we value, our values, and things in the material realm that we value. And the North Node in Western astrology is considered to be our path forward. It's unexplored territory, lessons that we have to learn or things that we have to master that we haven't mastered yet in this lifetime or in previous lifetimes. The South Node would be things that we carry forward from past incarnations, knowledge that we have gained, wisdom that we have gained, experiences that we have had, and so forth. Now, in Eastern astrology or Vedic astrology, the nodes are defined a little bit differently, and it can get quite confusing, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. But the North Node, or Rahu, as it's called in Vedic astrology, would be considered the head of the dragon. It's a energy that is voracious or has a voracious appetite and can be all-consuming. And when it is negatively aspected or situated, it can have almost a compulsive or obsessive quality that has a very powerful effect on the native or the person involved, in that, like I said, they are compulsively urged or called or moved to consume anything that it touches. Whereas the South Node, or Ketu, would be the tail of the dragon, which is where things are excreted or let go of. It's a diminishing energy, in other words. To grossly oversimplify it, The south node, or the past, repels, and the north node, or the future, pulls us or compels us forward. So let's consider what this represents. We have the north node, which is this energy that is kind of outward looking and outward reaching. It's kind of expansive. It's a force that compels us to move in that direction. And it has kind of a very karmic or fated aspect to it, in that in Western astrology, this is territory that we need to explore or things that we need to learn, as I said. It draws us in that direction, and often our experience and our life experience and our life situation will compel us to move in that direction, even if it's something that we're not familiar with or something that we're not comfortable with. And Uranus is a very powerful planet, being one of the outer non-personal planets. Uranus brings often sudden and dramatic events and experiences, or changes of course or direction into our life. It is there to break up stale or stagnant patterns or habits. And depending on how it's configured and what it's involved with, it can even go so far as being traumatic. Events can come out of the blue that were completely unexpected or not anticipated, that radically alter our experience or our perception. It's like almost like a lightning bolt that comes like completely out of the blue. Nobody expected this to happen. Such events can be quite shocking at times. Without the influence of Uranus in our solar system, stasis would be a dominating principle where things would be created and there would be very little opportunity for things to be reformed or changed. So Uranus is there to break up those stale habits and patterns and structures, and to kind of almost shock us into different states of awareness when it makes significant aspects by transit to our natal chart or to the natal chart of countries or institutions. And Mars, the other energy involved here, is the energy of will and energy itself. It's the kind of thing that gets you up and going and out of bed. It's the energy that makes you move or that drives you forward, gives you courage and ambition and force. And in a lower expression, it is associated with aggressiveness. And if it's not well expressed, it can manifest as actual aggression, hostility, and combat and warfare. Mars was the god of war and rules Aries. So it really depends on how that energy is expressed. But if you have a lot of Mars energy going on, you're not going to be laying around watching TV all the time. You're going to be doing stuff, right? So it's energy and vitality. And it can also be energy that is really about the self and the ego and your own will and expressing your own particular will. Like I said, that's the energy that gets us out of bed and going to do things. Now, it doesn't have necessarily a long-lasting effect. It can lack stamina. The energy can kind of come in intense bursts, which are not necessarily sustainable over a long period of time, typically. So there might be sudden bursts of activity that last a certain period of time, and you express all this intense energy, and then you need to rest and recuperate so that you can kind of go out and do battle again, so to speak. And so now we have this energy of Mars, this intense energy of aggression and will, and can be combative. The god of war, coming together with Uranus, which is this energy that can be shocking and dramatic, like I said, bring about sudden events. And with the North Node, which is sort of points towards the future, but, ill aspected, can actually be kind of like an all consuming kind of force and can go to extremes. And so this is quite a volatile combination. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, I happened to come across it just by chance. I don't have time to sit around and study astrology charts all day. I wish I did. And then when I noticed this, I'm like, wow, that is really unusual. The software that I use, I don't have the ability to easily calculate when the last time Mars and Uranus would have conjuncted so exactly on the North Node, but it has to be quite rare, many centuries most likely. Because, Uranus takes 84 years to orbit the Sun, Mars about 690 days, and the nodes orbit every 18.6 years. Just mathematically, the odds are very small. What concerns me about it, I don't want to arouse fear or whatever. Nonetheless, this is looming out there at the end of July and August 1st, is the aggressiveness of Mars and the volatility of Uranus. And like I said, it's always with Uranus, when you have a hard aspect with Uranus, it's almost always surprising. You can never really predict what exactly is going to happen with Uranus because by definition, it's surprising. It's always something we never anticipated or expected. And so it's a mystery there, but we have this aggressive energy of Mars and the North Node, which can really magnify and amplify whatever it comes in contact with. And so I don't know if this is going to manifest in terms of real estate, banking, the economy, or property and things like land grabs. Ukraine was a land grab on the part of Putin, and Taiwan would be a land grab on the part of China, because we're talking about Taurus here, and Taurus kind of governs those sorts of things. And opposite to where this triple conjunction is occurring is the South Node in Scorpio. And Scorpio governs, in mundane astrology, things like banking and insurance and returns on investments and various aspects of finance and finance industry. So effectively, there's an opposition from this triple conjunction to all that Scorpio energy. And oppositions can be very intense and challenging. This is a very volatile, very intense, and very amplified energy that will occur. And leading up to it, I think, you're looking at a week or two before and a week or two after, but really intense right at the very end of July. Now, there's a weak square going on at that time to Saturn, 4.1 degrees, which is still a fairly strong square, but not super intense. Usually when it's within 2 degrees or especially 1 degree, it's particularly intense. But that square is still going on, and that's been going on now for a while. This square between Uranus and Saturn has been going on for a while, and what it is doing is really challenging the structures and institutions and authorities and traditions that kind of govern our world. It's revolutionary forces and energies and radical forces, on the one hand, challenging the status quo, essentially. And this conjunction of the North Node, Uranus, and Mars will give that radical or anti-establishment side of the equation a real jolt of energy. There is also, at that very day, a sextile to Venus, which is actually a positive influence, and especially because Venus rules Taurus. But it's being sextiled by Mars and Uranus. So again, there's kind of those volatile energies involved. This is occurring on August 1st at 18 to 19 degrees of Taurus. So if you have significant points at 18, 19 degrees Taurus, this is a big deal for you. You really should look at your chart and analyze how, what other aspects are involved and so forth. If you are a Scorpio, or you have points at 18, 19 degrees Scorpio, or within a few degrees of that, this is very significant. This conjunction will be opposing that point or points in Scorpio. And also, if you have significant points at 18, 19 degrees or within 4 or 5 degrees of that, either way, in Leo or Aquarius, this is going to be squaring those points, this really crazy triple conjunction. If you do have intense or challenging aspects with this triple conjunction, I would recommend that in that time period, I don't want to put fear in people, but I need to say this. Lay low, avoid dangerous objects like table saws and knives, and, avoid places where there could be injury or physical violence or things like that. Just be aware that there's the potential for accidents or injury because of Mars and Uranus conjoining. And especially if I'm particularly directing this at people who have this conjunction in challenging aspect to significant points in their natal chart, like a square, conjunction, or opposition. Okay? Lay low. Go somewhere quiet. Don't play with guns or sharp instruments. So I didn't want this to be terribly long, but I did want to draw your attention to it because it's really incredible how many really rare transits we've had over the past few years. And this is another one. And also, the USA Pluto return is still within a degree of exact at this point. It's not necessarily being directly affected by this transit I'm talking about now, but it's still in play, and it is all throughout this year. This story is ongoing and is still unfolding. Just because it was exact, the first exact already occurred, there's others coming up. That situation is still in high gear. It'll take years actually for that Pluto return to have been fully realized and manifested. We will probably find out things and learn things that were related to that for years to come. And it'll probably have some really profound effect of fundamentally altering America as a country. See my episode on the USA Pluto return for more details on that. Also, there's a really amazing conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces coming up in April, and I also did an episode on that. If you're into spirituality, I'm quite certain you don't want to miss that, and maybe share that with friends who would be interested in that sort of thing. That is another rare, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So anyway, I hope you find this interesting and useful, and like I said, do check out your own astrology chart to see what's going on July 31st and August 1st when these two planets of Uranus and Mars are conjuncting or joining the North Node. Really intense stuff that has the potential to change our destiny, hopefully in a good way. So all the best, and I'll talk to you again soon.